There's a new sci-fi show called Travelers. At the time of the making of this video, it's on Netflix, and there is one season, and another, I believe, is scheduled for production in the near future. Speaking of the future is an absolute disaster in this story, and the few survivors in the future, are sending people back in time in order to clean things up in the present so that the future does not get to be such a disaster. They don't send them back bodily, however. They send them back as consciousnesses alone. And they send the consciousnesses back to inhabit the bodies of people living in the present. Only, to be a little more precise, they send the consciousnesses back to inhabit the bodies of people dying in the present. So, when they know when a person is about to die, they send a consciousness to inhabit that person's body a couple of seconds before that person dies. Then he prevents his own death, knowing in advance how it's supposed to happen. And he goes on living the life of the original person from the present, only with the consciousness and the memories of the person from the future. And he also goes about doing some special missions to prevent the future from being such a disaster. Now, I do not necessarily recommend this show. There are some horrific deaths. There is some foul language. There's some sexual content. There's some violence. But I do commend this show for taking philosophy seriously. I think it takes philosophy more seriously than any other sci-fi show I can think of, with the exceptions of Star Trek Next Generation, Star Trek Original Series, and The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Now, the biggest philosophical issue in this series is the question of personal identity. To generalize a bit, some people say personal identity is in consciousness. They give a psychological answer. Others say personal identity is in the body. And some say personal identity is in the soul. And these are not always the same people who give the psychological answer. The psychological answer could be by materialists who even deny the existence of such a thing as a soul. Or, the way John Locke explains it, you could have a continuity of consciousness even if the souls have changed. You could have, God, for example, could take all of my memories and move them from my soul to the soul of someone else. God could switch my souls out while I'm asleep, for example, and I could wake up with a new soul and all the old memories and never know the difference. Thus says Locke. So this TV show raises some of these questions, and it takes the questions pretty seriously. If Agent Grant McLaren, FBI Agent Grant McLaren, has his old body, but he has the memories of someone from the future, is he Agent Grant McLaren, or is he the guy from the future? In this show, we don't know any of the characters, the travelers, by their future names. We know them by the names of the bodies they're inhabiting in the present. Are they those people, or are they the people from the future? We usually think of them as people from the future, but it's not as clear as that, because, well, their identity changes. They seem to be different people than when they started off. And they seem to change over time. Agent Grant McLaren, as we call him, who seems initially to be a guy from the future and not Agent Grant McLaren from the present, seems to be more Agent Grant McLaren from the present after living a few weeks in Grant McLaren's body and inhabiting his social roles, his job, and so on. Is identity tied up in these things, at least in part? Can identity come in degrees? Can this person be the person from the future and not Grant McLaren? Or is he both? Or is he a new person altogether? These are the questions the show urges us to ask. And it illustrates them quite nicely. And it also illustrates the ethical questions associated with these questions of metaphysics and personal identity. In the penultimate episode, spoilers ahead, stop watching if you care about these things. In the penultimate episode, the characters are faced with this question: if Marcy, name of someone in the present, being inhabited by a consciousness of someone in the future, is about to die, but can be reset by having the consciousness from the future start again, but in the process losing the memories of Marcy from the last few weeks of inhabiting this body in the present, is it the right thing to do? Do you save Marcy 2.0, who at this point is only a possible person, by killing Marcy 1.0? Or are they really the same Marcy at all? Are they different Marcys? Are they the same Marcy if they're the same Marcy, do you save one? Do you kill one to save the other? If they're different Marcys, do you kill one to save the other? These are big questions. I myself go with the Kantian answer that if they are different people, you do not kill one to save the other. I'm also inclined to follow what I think is the Lockean answer, that they are different persons. Possible Marcy 2.0 is not the same person as Marcy 1.0. But these are difficult metaphysical questions with ethical corollaries, which is usually the case. And I commend this show for taking these metaphysical issues seriously.